see you all here. Can I just ask, club umpires here tonight? Yeah. Great, excellent, welcome, fantastic. I'd like to see more club umpires come and attend when they can. First and foremost, just so we're not going to hold things up, we're going to call Peter Flack up to come and talk about the Craig competition, and I'll sort of, after Peter's finished, I'll talk a bit more about the Craig, really important for that. Just quickly, I will announce that I spoke to Neil today from sunny Queensland. I think he's up there on a holiday. But Neil asked to pass on, we've got more umpires than needed for the actual Craig competition, which is a good thing. So that'll be on a roster basis, and Neil will work through that. So be patient with it as we work through it with Neil. So, but please welcome Peter Flack.
Thanks, Brian. One other thing that Neil spoke about on the phone to me today is the head hatch sorties. The Craig appointments are almost finished, and they'll be sent out by email and or letter as you get your normal appointments. He hasn't had a chance to finish it before he went to Brisbane. Most of you have done games in the Craig in the past, so all I'm going to do is a few dot points. Just as a reminder, this is the tremendous competition now. We're getting great feedback from the ex-hatch, now Craig. The standard is lifted again. Last year's final was as good a game of cricket as you'd ever go and see. The most important one, which you'll have to struggle with managers, coaches, know-alls and parents, is the bowling restrictions. And it's in your book, which you're getting tonight. It's a little white one. 5 overs in any given spell to start the game. If a guy bowls 4, he then has 2 choices. He can wait 30 minutes and come back and bowl the rest of his 5, there's maximum 9 for the competition, or he can come back and bowl 1, and that's the end of his first spell. And then he has to wait another 30 minutes. Now, you'll get parents that'll say he's bowled 4, he's going to come back, he's going to bowl 5. So be ready for them. As Adam well knows, it happens every year. And I'll have 10 phone calls after round 1 from smart-ass dads and even clever mums. So read 9-7 and get it into your memory and really just push it on. The votes are to be sent by email, and it's in the book, peterflack@optusnet.com.au. It's important that I get them on a regular basis, a daily basis, especially after the last round, because we've only got a couple of days to do the winners, to win the trophies that the Umpires Association present. Match reports are to go to Ken Hilton. I suppose you've also got plenty of envelopes left. They're to go daily, not at the end of the week, daily to him. You know, he's got enough to do without having to get an envelope with 6 or 7 reports in it. There's no second innings. You'll get some smart coach who'll knock a mob over and then he'll, we're going to go for percentage. If he gets them out, end of the game. The side batting second, however, if they get a side out early, they're entitled to their full quota of overs in a second innings, in the second innings of the game. I ask you to control drinks breaks. I told the story a couple of years ago that I went to a game at Brunswick one day and the drinks came out and so did 2 footballs. And it took us 20 minutes to get the footballs off the ground after the drinks had finished. It became a match between the two sides. All the kids were on the ground. Drinks, the 2 managers and somebody to carry the drinks. Talk to them before the game and say that that's what you want. Fielding restrictions, 9-14. You all know that. Some grounds you'll have dots for the half pitch penalty area. Others you won't. So it's up to you people to say, yeah, that's a half pitch, you can stand there or you can't stand there. We don't have short leg. Helmets. Batsmen must have helmets. Wicket-keepers standing up must have helmets. Over the couple of years ago, we got a request which we allowed for a young lad that had glasses and couldn't bat in a helmet, and it's not easy in a helmet, believe me. And we allowed it, and we got into real strife because the opposition complained that they created a danger that one of their boys might hurt this boy. So helmets for wicket-keepers standing up and every batsman. Clothing, full coloured shirt, if it's Preston, a red shirt, or a white shirt with red panels, or a full white shirt. But they've all got to be the same. You can't have 3 kids in a red shirt, 3 kids in a white shirt, and 3 kids in their singlet. White pants, white pads, red ball. Some club, you'll come up, you'll pop up, oh, it's a one-day game, here's the 2 white balls. Sorry, white pads, red ball. Fees 125, you've got to rise again, guys, you get it easy. No play, $30 if you turn up. Please keep the game going. We don't want phone calls coming in at 5:30, 5:45, because we like to get the scores to Sydney. On the weekend, clubs have to have them in by 7 o'clock to make the Sunday papers. If I can get them on a daily basis by 5 o'clock, I can get them in the next day's paper. And if a young kid's playing 100 or a big score, there's nothing he likes better than to see his name in the paper the next day. So please keep the game going so the clubs have got no excuse for not ringing up. Remember round 4's on a Sunday to make sure of your availability. Extreme weather conditions. It's in the hands of the executive. There's 4 things that can happen. You can have an early start. If both sides and the others are ready, you can get going. It's 9:30, everybody's ready, off you go. Or you might get an instruction from the executive that it's to be a short game, perhaps 20 overs each. On an extreme day, which you'll be advised it is an extreme, as soon as there's a result, the game finishes. We don't go on and on and on. Or the other one of the 4, of course, is you'll get advised of a full cancellation well before you go to the game. The spirit of cricket is to be enforced by all time. This is the chance to get these young blokes so that they don't become a pain in the arse when they become adult cricketers. And if there's no play by 2:30, game over. I wish you well. I hope you have a successful competition. I can't call it the Shield anymore, can we, Jeff? Craig competition. And please, if you get the chance to come to one of the finals or the final at Kew, come along and really see a tremendous game of cricket.
Well said.
Leo. Just on the point of drinks, one game I had a number of years ago, in the east, in the south, the game started, the wicket fell within a couple of overs, and the person from the fielding side decided to run out the drinks. Quickly shooting him off, of course, but that was something he said, I've been told to do this by the coach. So you have to shoot him off, he was doing what they do in the first or last year, whatever. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, thank you for that. Drinks, before the game, talk to them so you have, it's a normal day, normal temperature, 1 or 2, 15 overs, 30 overs, that's it. That's good. They can have little bottles down the back corner if they want. Thank you for that, because they watch television. And you saw the test match the other day, Stark ran in, they were 3 balls, got it like out, and 3 blokes came out with the drinks. Like, he'd have to be real first.
Thanks, guys. I guess let's sum it up about the drinks. I'm going to talk about the seniors in a minute as well. Use a bit of common sense. Keep an eye on it. Put your clock on it. Have a think about how long it's going to go, and then make sure that you take some action. Don't just go and complain later on it went too long. As umpires, we can help control that. In the seniors as well, in our first 11 and second 11 in particular, last couple of matches, there's some clubs now starting to run water out nearly at the end of every over. Right? That's got to stop. Unless there's a player distressed or there's something, you know, we don't mind if the bloke's made 50 and you get a bit hot under the helmet and those sort of things, but this every over is a bit of common sense. But we've also got to make sure we keep an eye on the weather so that, you know, we don't want players getting dehydrated or any of those sort of things that are getting hot. So they should be hydrating before the game. So let's use a balanced view, be smart about it, please. Okay? A couple of administration things we need to talk about that's been passed on to me by Secretary Mr Ken Hilton. And Peter Flack can attest to this as too. Now that we've gone at the moment, pardon me, to 6:10 finish, what's happening is we're not keeping the overs moving through the day. A lot of games are finishing 20, 6, some 6:30. By the time you get off the ground, get into the change room, it's nearly 20 to 7. Then we're asking for the scorebooks to do our votes and everything. The clubs have got till 7 o'clock to ring Peter Flack and get the scores in ready for the next day to make the deadline of the newspaper. So if it happens to finish late, for whatever reason, then make sure you go and talk to the club. If you run the scores through, you've got it all done, then you can ask for the book. So let's work together with the clubs on that. But let's keep the overs moving. At the end of each first hour, go and mention to the captain, just letting you know, you're on track with your overs, you're 1 behind, you're 2 behind, whatever it is. Now they might not want to know, some do. Whether they do or not, at least if you let them know, after each hour, 17 overs or thereabouts, a drinks, a tea, whatever it might be, just friendly reminders. Then when it gets to the end of the day, and you've been trying to hurry them up, and you've given them enough warnings, and they're late, there's no real excuse, penalise them. Let's penalise them, because they should be adhering to it. Turn it off, Mervyn. Call her back later.
Ben, can I just add one thing?
Sure.
The clubs have actually got to ring Peter by 6:45.
Okay,
So
there you
it's
go.
tighter.
Sorry, I thought it was by 7, but okay, yep.
But it's 6:45 now.
Okay, so
Time.
really important to do that. Now, when you put in your match report and you've lost 5 minutes or 6 minutes, the old adage of a lost ball or dog on the ground and these sort of things, we want to have more valid reasons of why, because you can usually make up those few minutes. And usually, rather than we guess how long, let's just have a look at our watch. A dog on the ground or whatever it might be. So let's be a bit smart. Let's help the progress of our competition, which is really important. Congratulations to all umpires too on the voting system. That's working really well. Really well. So don't drop the ball, keep that going, which is really important we do that. Just be advised, the tea break. You might be happy in taking the 30 minutes or the 25 before you're going to walk. More times than not, you'll find the team's already out there, ready to go. So just keep an eye on that, because next year I think you'll find there'll be an adjustment to that 30 minutes in one way, shape or another. So just for what it's worth. Okay, I need to bring everybody up to date on the accreditation. I sent a list to Cricket Victoria just over 7 weeks ago. And there was about 30 names on there that are no longer umpiring with the VSDCA. So I highlighted them, put a reason in, added new umpires to know what's happening. I then rang 2 weeks ago and said to Cricket Victoria, did you get my email? Yes, we've got it, Benny. I said, well, what's happening with it? Look, we're really busy here at the moment, we'll get to it. So I can only apologise because it was 7 weeks ago that I sent that sheet in, but we're in the hands of Cricket Victoria. So what I said to them quite clearly, you are the governing body that mandate we all have to be accredited. So if we get audited, it's on you. Any issues, it's on you. So they know where they're standing from me. So being too busy to get to it, not good enough when you've got compliance issues, but that's the state of play. So don't get too concerned about it. The executive know, I've spoken to Ken Hilton about it. Jeff's here tonight, and we've done our bit by getting the list in 7 weeks ago. So just be a little patient with it. Re-accreditation or whatever. A number of umpires this year have sent it to me for re-accreditation. I've signed the sheet. That's gone in, but you might not have received anything back. So be patient on that. I just want to clarify something. I had a couple of umpires ring. How many of you here watch a test match? Probably most at some point in time. How many of you noticed when the ball went clearly over the batsman's head, they called it a wide? Under the law, it's a no ball. Do not call it a wide. In our competition, it goes over the head for the batsman standing upright at the crease. It is a no ball. Now, if a batsman up here flings the bat at it and gets a top edge, and he gets caught and you haven't called a no ball, I'd be pretty filthy if I'm the batsman. It says clearly in the laws that it is now a no ball. So please make sure that we call that a no ball. If it goes over the head up here, it's a no ball. If the batsman gets an edge to it or he hits it, doesn't matter, it's still a no ball. But make sure you try and call it as early and as quickly as possible. Is that clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. There's a couple of feedback emails I'm starting to get now from some senior umpires about some inexperienced umpires. I want every single umpire in the room to know, I won't go much further with the dialogue, every single umpire in the room if you believe you need some sort of help, guidance, you want to talk about the rules, you want to talk about the laws, please ring me. I've got some umpires going to other umpires, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when I hear they're giving them the wrong information, that is a bad thing, because then we've got to try and fix that. So if you're not sure about something, do not pass on any information unless you are 100% sure that is the rule or that is the law. And if you're not sure, call me. If I don't know, I'll find out for you, I promise you. So let's make sure that we work together. I'm here to help. On that, over the last 3 Saturdays, we've had some players who are just playing up a little bit, some players. Umpires at the end of the game are calling those players in, having a chat to them. Fantastic. Please let me know about it. And I'll tell you why. If you go and you talk to a player about their behaviour, and then the next match, Neil and I talk and we put an inexperienced umpire there, what's going to happen? You're an experienced umpire, you struggle sometimes to control it. We don't want inexperienced umpires then being caught out trying to deal with somebody whose behaviour is not up to standard. So please let me know, because then we might adjust, or we might even send the umpire there and say, good luck, go and learn, see how it goes. But more times than not, I don't want to be throwing them into the lion's den. Okay? So if you're going to have that chat to them, please let me know. You can call me, text me, email me, whatever way you want to do it. Okay?
Ben, with that, shouldn't they be named on the match report as well?
Well, absolutely. If they've been spoken to, they should be at least mentioned on the match report, absolutely. Now, there's 1 or 2 players that are getting away with mentions. If a player absolutely swears and uses derogatory language towards you or a player, there should be no second chance. They should be reported, because we need to stamp that out of our competition. It's no good saying we're the second tier best competition if we don't act like it and act accordingly and bring that bad behaviour into line. So jump on it straight away, please. Sledging is not on. I'll repeat, sledging is not on. Nip it in the bud. But do it in a nice professional manner. As you would like to be spoken to, that's how you speak to the captain and the player and make them understand.
Have you been paperwork attached to that at the game before you leave the ground?
On a report,
Yeah.
there is reports which Neil spoke about right at the beginning of the year. So if you're not sure about the report, send Neil and I an email and we'll sort it out for you.
But we don't have paperwork that's been taken to the ground.
Yeah, no, we've got report forms.
We've got report forms.
Yep, there are. Yep.
Which we have to get from you guys.
Yep. So we'll sort that out with you a bit later. Okay?
Later.
Yeah, I'm a bit pushed for time. I don't want you here till midnight, and we've got a full book up tonight. I've got a fair thing to get through. I'm now going to move to our very special first guest. I'm pretty disappointed that some people found out who it was. I thought I kept it quiet. I only told one person. How did it doesn't find out? I don't know. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to listen very intently to the man who knows more about wet weather than anyone else. Please welcome Ian Wyatt. Now, before Ian starts, it's a fairly lengthy presentation, but we're going to keep it condensed to as short a time as possible. This information will also be put up on our website, so I encourage all umpires to go and have a read of it and make sure you understand it. This would have happened last month. Unfortunately for Ian, when his uncle passed away, he couldn't be here, so I've decided we'll continue with that tonight, so Ian will go through that presentation. Please listen closely, and I'm sure you'll all learn something from it. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, Brian. I don't know about knowing everything about wet weather, because I don't think there's anybody that does, so we'll give it our best shot. Wet weather's, as Brian said 4 weeks ago when we started this conversation, we hadn't had any wet weather for the season, and consequently I think we've had a little bit of rain just about every day since then, so our timing's a little bit out. There's 100 different scenarios that take place with wet weather. We're not going to cover all 100, but we'll go through a few of them. The idea of this is to give everybody the guidelines to follow, whether you're in first and seconds, whether you're in thirds or fourths, whether your times, your scheduled times for your matches start at 12:30 or start at 1 o'clock or start at 1 and finish at 6, 6:10, whatever it might happen to be. different scenarios for the different grades, so apply the principles that we run through to whatever your time in your particular grade is. Just quickly before we start, we'll have a look at the hours of play. I think most people will know the hours of play, but they're going to be important when we work through, because we need to know what our schedule hours are to know what our calculations are if we've got to make any calculations to our overs and whatnot for each day. 2-day games, all times in this presentation are on daylight saving time. I haven't gone back into we haven't got any Eastern Standard Time games to come, so we're just working on those for the time being. Tea break, we know when the tea break, we know if we've got to make adjustments, we've got to make adjustments to the playing times and take into account the tea break as well. So just bear those couple of things in mind as we work through. We're going to do it in a couple of different sections. We're going to do 2-day games and we're going to do 1-day games separately. We get 2-day games, we're going to work on under 60 minutes of time lost and over 60 minutes of time lost. Two distinctive areas. Afternoon tea times are pretty standard. You don't need to know too much there. Just be wary of those couple of, if adjournments take place, our afternoon tea times change. Again, later on when we're working through adjustments for interruptions, we'll need to take into account where we're at as far as your tea times go, whether we've got to have an early one, a late one, whether we've got to have a reduced one. They're all in the book, easy to understand, straightforward, so bear those in mind. First little test we've got is name at least 4 instances, weather related, where the first day of a 2-day match will be abandoned, requiring the games to be played as a 1-day game. Got any takers?
Less than 45 minutes play.
2:45 comes into
Two-
no play.
2:45, no play before 2:45 anymore. Day one's cancelled by the board.
Didn't get 2 hours of playing.
Less than 2 hours of play anymore. Let's have a look, see what we can get. Bear in mind with any of these, if there's any play takes place on the first day and it's abandoned for any of these reasons, the scores are scratched, all null and void, and the following week played as a 1-day and there's a fresh toss. Okay? First day's been commenced. No further play takes place after 1:45. I think we got that at one stage. The day's play is cancelled. All times are declared null and void. We're underway. Plays abandoned by the board. We've already seen that. No play takes place before 2:45. Less than 2 hours of play within the scheduled time. Again, remember the times we looked at within your own scheduled time. Less than 2 hours of play. Lastly, there was another one. There he is.
There it is.
There he goes. The captains and all the umpires decide no play is possible within the scheduled time for the day. Pretty straightforward. I think we've all been there and done that. Okay. Let's go to 2-day games. In the following circumstances, the first day shall be abandoned and the match shall become a 1-day game. No, we've already been there.
The step size of that flicker, one goes one way, one goes the
Thanks,
other.
mate. Okay, on to the first part. Playing time playing time exceeding 60 minutes in aggregate. The first rule to bear in mind, whenever we've lost 60 minutes in any part of the first day is that the second day starting time will be amended to 12:30 until 6:40 for the first, and those other times for the thirds and fourths. Okay, so straight away, if you've lost more than 60 minutes, you've got to remember you're on extended playing time for day 2.
If the side batting is not dismissed.
We're talking about day 1, and we're talking about the side batting first at this stage. At any stage during day 1, if you lose more than 60 minutes and the side batting first, you're into extended playing time on day 2. Okay? For all 11s, play not exceeding 60 minutes. Side batting first hasn't been dismissed or declared its innings, or been compulsory closed. The hours of play for day 2 shall be rescheduled for the extended periods as well. Okay? So, playing time not exceeding 60 minutes is lost. Side batting first hasn't been dismissed or compulsory closed. We're on to extend playing time. Day 2. If during the innings of the side batting first, play is interrupted by stoppages or weather, bad light, on the first day, on or after 6:10, the first and seconds, and 6 o'clock for thirds, 7 for fourths, the innings shall be completed on day 2. It stumps at that stage if there's any interruptions after those particular times. Any problems there? All clear? Play on. If playing time it's not exceeding 60 minutes in aggregate is lost, then the innings of the side batting first and the second, the scheduled commencement time, the side batting first shall get the minimum number of overs required to be bowled. It shall be reduced according to our books that we've got, and you've all got schedules there, 1626, and play shall continue past 6 o'clock until the completion of that minimum number of overs, but if interrupted after that time, that's it, that stumps for the night. Whatever unused overs are there at that stage shall roll over to the following day. Anybody got any problems with that?
That 6 o'clock should say 6:10, shouldn't it? Yeah.
There isn't a, in our handbook there's 2 mentions of 6 and 6:10.
Yeah.
The reality is if it's after 6 you can't start again before 6:10 anyway. So the reality is probably when we have an instance coming up where it says 6:10, that should probably be 6 o'clock. Because if you're off, you can't start back to that. Side batting first is not dismissed. It'll be entitled to receive either the balance of their entitlement overs on day 2 or the lower of their entitlement overs as calculated on the schedules, allowing for the additional batting time of 1 hour on day 2. Is that clear? 65 overs, whatever it might happen to be gone, they've batted for on the first day, stumps are taken, they're entitled to the 15 overs on day 2.
Where it becomes confusing with that is if the team bowling first is behind their over it, and you only have 60 minutes, they've only bowled 59 overs. Well, you can't bowl 21 overs in an hour.
No.
So after a lot of time, 60 minutes, which is 16, whatever it is, 17 overs, I think it is, 16 overs.
Yep.
That's a compulsory closure, is that correct?
We'll have an example of that coming up in a couple of minutes.
But also, I want to reiterate, that's why it's important for us to make sure we speak to the captain and getting the over rate.
Correct, but sometimes...
But if it
Yeah, it
happens,
does happen.
That happens,
Correct.
but there might be allowances for that.
Yep. A little bit of a test as to where we're at. This will answer some of your questions. We're not mentioning the teams up there, but you can see for yourself. Players commenced, first batting side, underway, there's no problems. Tee's taken and all of a sudden there's a downpour while we're sitting having a cup of tea. At 3:45 we've got rain, the covers are on immediately. 4:15 the rain eases, we go out, have a little bit of a look and get them to take the covers off. It looks all clear, so away we go. 4:20 we decide play's ready to commence at 4:30. They recommence their innings. Okay? On your little bits of paper, see if you can work out what time overs required for the remainder of the match, either on day one and then again on day two. How many overs left day
Have a
one?
go at it.
How many overs and times left on day two? Day one. 38 overs were completed before the rain set in. 4:30 to 6:10 p.m, which was the scheduled finishing time, is 100 minutes of play. It's 29 overs remain on day one.
Anyone got different at 29? That's a good start.
6:10 still remained our scheduled finishing time. Okay? 29 overs calculated. So that means 67 overs were bowled for the day. We finished at some time around about 6:10. Hopefully, if we've moved them on quick enough, we've finished around about that time. Day one finishes 6:10, 67 overs. Day two, play scheduled for 12:30 to 6:40. First team continues batting for a further 13 overs, so they've completed their 80 overs at 1:15. Okay, so we're back on the field at 1:25, and there's 80 overs to be bowled to team batting second. Normal extended time 6:40, which became our extended time period for the second day. They bowl 80 overs unless the second team's bowled out before then. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? That's probably a reasonably regular occurrence, or something along those lines. So get the guidelines into your mind that the team batting first has to still complete their 80 overs if we've lost less than 60 minutes.
So on day two, you're bowling 93 overs.
Whatever it's needed. You've got the extra hour, and you should have already got through 80 in your normal time. You've got an extra hour to get 13 extra overs plus a 10-minute changeover. Okay?
One question. On day one, if they actually bowled more than, if they finish on the 29 overs by 5:50, can they still bowl for the next 20 minutes?
On day one, if they finish the recalculated 29 overs, was a minimum 29 overs.
They can still bowl if they finish it by 5:45.
Or 6:10.
Yeah.
They can bowl 30 or 31 if they wanted to.
Exactly.
A minimum. It's a minimum.
Minimum of
And it's mentioned in the book, it's a minimum.
Guys, can we stop having a little chat between ourselves while Ian's presenting? Please, really important.
Hey, Ian, sorry, if the team bowling manages to get through their overs that they had to make up and you finish on regular time by 6:10, because that can happen, do we start at 1 o'clock the next day or we start at 12:30? Even though we also start at 12:30.
In all occurrences, if you have more than 60 minutes playing time lost, you start at 12:30, irrespective of if you lost an hour and a half and you still got through 80 overs.
Yeah, that's
fine.
Yeah.
No ifs or buts, second day starts at 12:30. Okay? The only time we might not have that scenario is if the team batting first is not dismissed, team batting second goes in, and in those cases we don't start early on day two.
So I'll throw one more in. Say you lost only 10 minutes with a short rain delay. What time do you start on day two?
It's under 60 minutes, so depending on, no, it's automatically a normal day. It's automatically a normal day. If you lost 10 minutes, you should still get through your 80 overs.
And you can check.
Going back to that, if the side's 9 out, we lost 10 minutes, the other team's only got 78 overs, we don't start doing the bowl for 2 overs. We do. We start at normal time on the second.
We start the the second day at the normal time.
They bowling 2
It
overs.
was up there before, under 60 minutes lost, start the second, and the team batting first was not dismissed. We start the second day at the normal time.
No, it starts 12:30.
Sorry, correct.
So we've got to remember, it's an 80-over game here, yeah?
For the 2 hours.
Yes.
They've got to get their 80 overs.
That's what we got to try and
Yeah, it's an 80-over.
We're on to the team batting second. Okay, on day 1 or day 2, and this is similar to what we were talking about before, team batting second. Okay, we're a little bit ahead of ourselves here. From the scheduled commencement time during the innings of the second team, the match shall continue until the reduced number of overs have been completed. That's what we were talking about before. So, pretty straightforward. Day 1. Team batting second is batting on day 1. The innings of the side batting second commences, and the minimum number of overs required to be bowled for the remainder of the day is according to our books as per 1626. Okay. Day 2, where the second side batting second commences or resumes on day 2, the match shall continue until the minimum number or entitlement overs for that day have been bowled. How many overs are required, the minimum number of overs for the day?
80.
That's it. Okay? That's why it's underlined there. Play shall continue past 6:30 until the completion of the minimum number of overs. However, if you're off the ground at 6:30, that's the end of play.
Just a scenario we had on the weekend. There was a side batting first, and we had a third, we had a rain delay.
Sorry?
The side batting third was during the rain delay, so that there was a result. Then we got, so then steam batting third went in, then it rained. So we lost 50 minutes. So it doesn't say in the book about the team batting third. So we just
You're
got
good.
follow what's left and actually back.
You're back on the water.
Yeah, 16
More
what we
time.
used to do.
Correct, you did just go on the time,
Yeah,
overs.
that's what we did, yeah.
Yeah, decision's already been
Yeah.
reached, so.
Yeah.
For all 11s, playing time exceeding 60 minutes in aggregate's been lost, and this has happened a few times over recent times. Day 1, the hours of play for day 2 are to commence at 12:30. We've already been through that. No ifs or buts, more than 60 minutes. From the scheduled commencement time, and or during the innings of the side which bats first, we've lost 60 minutes, remember? And prior to 6:10, the match shall continue on day 2 with the innings of the side batting first, if not otherwise terminated, compulsory close at the end of 80 minutes, 80 overs. Last scenario there, from the scheduled commencement time during the innings of the side which bats second, on or after the scheduled finishing time, which we've already known about, the match will thereupon end, providing the reduced target number of overs has been bowled. Yep. Last scenario here for you to have to think about. Some overnight rain at a club down in the west. Play starts a bit late. Everybody's on board. Altona are batting. 3:05, there's a further interruption to play, and 22 overs have been completed due to heavy rain and passing shower. The play resumes again at 3:55. They continue their first innings, eventually dismissed at 5:57. 56 overs gone, and the conditions are now good. What's your decision this time? Day 1 and day 2. What overs and times during each of those 2 days are required? Have a quick think about it. We won't wait too long. Here we go. Pretty straightforward, this one. 50 minutes playing time had been lost, so our playing time is reduced to 2:30, which is 66 overs. Following the interruption, tea was immediately taken from 3:05 to 3:35. On resumption of play at 3:55, it revised 135 minutes, 39 overs remaining. Team were dismissed on day one after only 56 at 5:57. Anyone think about the 15 minutes before the scheduled players rule? Yep, got that. They get the option, most teams would take the option. On day two,
No captain in the league, that's like.
play scheduled for the revised time at 12:30 to 6:40. So there's 60 minutes of play lost on day one, because there was 60 minutes lost on day one. Okay, that's the result of the little episode that we had there. Just a quick one to finish off 2-day games. All good?
Yeah. So basically it's up to the captain to say we had to start.
Within 15 minutes. Correct. Yep.
So we don't even mention walk out. So just one team done for 2 overs the other day. The first day lost 2.
Last little test. Team batting first on day one is dismissed 71st over. There's been no interruptions on day one. Team 2 commenced batting. Team 2 resumed day 2, normal schedule, however rain occurs after 18 overs 2:05. Play resumes 4 o'clock, there's no further interruptions for the match. What's the minimum entitlement for team entitlement overs for team 2 on day 1? Any suggestions?
7 overs.
What's the minimum entitlement for the team on day 2? 7 overs. Anybody get anything different to 7 overs?
7 overs.
Good one. Everyone know exactly how we work that out?
Yep.
There it is.
25 minutes.
Okay. Day 2. Adjusted batting time was 4 till 6:10. We got out for 130 minutes, 37 overs, plus the 18 that were bowled before the interruption is 55 overs.
What I mean? Something's a little.
Right, give Anne a round of applause. Now, as you can see, it's a reasonably lengthy sort of topic, but very important. As I said, this one is going to be put up on the website. Please make sure you read it, because every scenario is different. You can come up with 100 sort of scenarios, and it might not work out on the day that suits that. So it's important to have that document with you, and like I said, it'll be put up on the website. We'll get it organised and get it going. Okay? Yes?
Just one question with the wet weather. Pretty sure the rules of cricket or laws of cricket, there's no such rule stating you can't start play or continue to play while it's raining or spitting or drizzling.
Correct.
That is true. I've yet to find that in a book.
What's our call here?
Our basic principle has always been, if it's raining during play, it doesn't get too heavy, and it's light, no matter how many times they worry and complain about the ball being slippery and whiting it, you can keep playing. You will then decide to go off as umpires whether it becomes dangerous or not. Alright? Don't fall for the trap that the ball's slippery like a cake of soap. But
when you got a like this, you rain
Yep.
coming down after you've been off.
and you're coming on, light misty rain. There's always been an adage that you don't play or don't start play when it's raining. Now, you've got to make a judgment call on that. But if it's drizzling and raining, more times than not, we've decided not to play. But it's not in the book. There's no law about it, there's no rule. It's been what I call a rule of thumb. So I do want to introduce our second guest presenter, speaker. Now, this particular person has been involved in football and cricket. I had the privilege of also umpiring with him in a rep game in football. About football and cricket, he's a well-versed person. Been involved in cricket as a player for many years. Umpired with sub-district for 2 or 3 years. And I was sad to see him go. He's now the coach of the Malvern Cricket Club, and I thought it was important to get someone of his ilk come along and talk to us about his views on what he's seen as a player and as an umpire and now as a coach. Please welcome Peter Marshall. Now, Pete, first before we go much further, don't worry too much about time, I'll square with James Barrett later. But I think it's important if you can just give a couple of minutes, if you can just talk for a couple of minutes, a little bit about your background, footy and cricket, because it goes to, I guess, the old credibility of why I've invited you here in the first place, to pass on some words of wisdom to our umpires.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, guys. I'm conscious of the time because I can smell the sausage rolls burning. I haven't got a PowerPoint presentation, so you can all relax. I've got to do a good job because we're only middle of the table at mine when we need a bloody 6 points this week. We've already checked out who's umpiring us too. Yeah, real quickly, look, growing up, it was footy in the winter, it was cricket in the summer like us all. I got as high as Melbourne under 19s playing footy, but I was only a little bloke. And at 15 I was riding track work at Caulfield as well, so I sort of figured out after being KO'd a couple of times that footy wasn't going to take me too far. My brother captained Melbourne under 19s and later Ormond Amateurs, which is a strong club. And I did a bit of umpiring for pocket money and then played in the Federal League as a 16, 17-year-old in the seniors, which was pretty tough footy for McKinnon. Anyway, long story short, I think my prowess at umpiring footy, Don Jolly, the late Don Jolly, saw me one day and said, you better come down to the VFL. And I had a really quick progression, and did under 19 grand final, I think at 18, and 5 Diamond Valley grand finals and survived. And then those guys in the northern suburbs and so on and so forth. And found my way umpiring league seconds at 19, but going to Teachers College and running a news agency at the same time. I'll keep this really brief. I opted out and found my way in the VFA on Sundays at 23 years of age, which was pretty intimidating for a 23-year-old. And I can talk about that forever and I won't. And then when the VFA was taken over in the late 80s, I found myself back at the AFL and spent a number of years at the AFL and was lucky enough to umpire league footy. And since then I've coached and I'm still involved in umpiring at VFL level as well and other places. The cricket side of things, cricket was my passion. I've got an assistant coach at Malvern, Peter Bedford, who picks up the balls for me. I'm pretty lucky, aren't I? I have a Brownlow medalist and a state cricketer. Extraordinary, isn't it? How many other people can you think of that's done that? I know Craig Bradley, George Young, Duperoozle came over from Western Australia, played state cricket and obviously represented their state of football as well. But to have Wills, we call him, and he's our second team coach, and he's my bitch at training on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'm very lucky, very lucky. But just going back to the footy, and he says that footy he made a career out of, but he loved cricket, and I loved cricket, and played from the age of 13, and went all the way through. I played Dowling for university. I got a game there because I don't think anyone else wanted to play at university, and found my way down at St Kilda as a young guy. But then I had to start making choices, even in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, about was I going to be an umpire or was I going to play cricket? And I had a guy called Jeff Tamlin at St Kilda ahead of me, so I was never going to keep ahead of him. And I found my way back to McKinnon, which was a VSDCUA Senior Division club at the time, as Brian all knows in the room and other people here, umpiring the VTCA. Senior division was pretty good cricket. I didn't play cricket then for 9 years because of umpiring. Played a little bit of Crusaders, as we all know a little bit about Crusaders as a kid. Midweek cricket, facing the likes of Gladstone Small, blokes like that trying to knock your block off. Midweek cricket was pretty good. Ian Chapman played, Rowan Canai, all these guys, Gary Cozy, you never knew who you were running into. But found my way back to McKinnon at the end of my umpiring career per se, and I captained and I coached McKinnon for a number of years, and then had a break and got talked into umpiring, which I really enjoyed. And there's people obviously in this room that I learnt very quickly, some things about umpiring. And of course, being a player, I thought I knew it all. I knew fuck all until I came down here. It was amazing. But I still had a little bit of a passion to coach, and I was very fortunate. Benny, come 2016, I had a couple of clubs approach me, and there was 4 from sub-district, and I felt, just in my short time umpiring in subbies, that it's a good comp. Why? Because there's good umpiring. And I'm not just dagging, I mean that sincerely. It's run by some creditable people, Kenny and Phil. Phil wears a lot of hats, and Jeff, and people like that. It's a credible competition. So it wasn't a hard decision to make when Melbourne made me a really good offer, and there was a lot of reasons why I went to Melbourne. I knew about 2 people. I walked in the door. I found out a lot of things about Melbourne since. You should always do your due diligence when you take on positions. But we're sorting through all that. So I'm Melbourne through and through. They're paying me. But as I said, there's things I need to fix up, and it's a continual work in progress to aspire to be strong, and I'm happy to say it, like the Oakleys and like the Caulfields and like the Williamstowns and like the Brunswicks, because they're the benchmark of the competition. So that's what we're aspiring at Melbourne. So that's where I'm at.
So can I just ask, on the 2 seasons you umpired, sub-district, what would be something that you got out of those couple of seasons in umpiring cricket that you would impart at Melbourne to the captain or the players? What was something that you learned out of umpiring you go, I can really pass this on?
Well, yeah, no, that's a good question, Benny. First thing, when I came down to start umpiring, I thought I'd better know the rules. That was the first thing. Then I better know subbies' bylaws, hence tonight. And be myself. If I didn't know the rules, don't guess, don't pretend. Go and find out. I admit, Brian, I went and asked other umpires, or asked people I was umpiring with on the day. Do a little bit of preparation, guys. Do a little bit of preparation. If you haven't been in the ground before, find out where it is, give yourself a bit of time. I learned all this from my AFL umpiring background. And very important, I taught myself to know some key players' names and captains' names. I never use nicknames. Know their names. And respect them and they'll respect you. At Melbourne, we talk about this. In fact, we probably need to have umpires come down to training occasion. I'm just sitting there tonight listening, and some of that information was coming out tonight. It wouldn't be bad if we had an umpires cricket night where everyone goes out to a club near where they live. Gee, it'd be gold. At Melbourne, we talk about the rules. We talk about respect of the game, and we do some homework. I'm going to tell you right now, guys, we do homework on the opposition, but we do some homework on the umpires. If we can exploit the rules, or if we know that Michael's a trigger figure, we're going to be right in his face. We talk about it. If we know that Adam's just going to stand there and give us fuck all, well, we're not going to waste our time talking to Adam, because we know he's going to give us nothing. I'm only joking, okay? We know Doggies gets a bit excited, so we try to stir him up. We try to stir him up, so we might get a decision. But in all jokes aside, we'll go that to a small degree, but at Melbourne, or wherever I've coached, we try to concentrate on our controllables. And our controllables were our batting, our bowling, our fielding, our key points. I get pissed off, and it pissed me off a bit umpiring, when we had people worrying about the wickets, worrying about what the curator did. You know, worrying about the opposition too much. I think we've all got to worry about ourselves. So from an umpiring point of view, I learned very quickly, take the time. You've always got more time than you think. And that's my AFL footy background, that even at AFL level it's a quick game, but you've actually got a lot more time than what you realise to make your decision. So we'll identify umpires, no question. We've got guys who are going to get their finger up really quick. We're going to be really in their face. We've got umpires who think we can get under their skin a little bit, or we can get away with a bit. We'll push them. I would like to think that the Roosters are a reasonable club and play the game properly. But when I coach guys, and you all know, I go to training on a Tuesday or Thursday night, I'm dealing with 40 to 50 different people from all walks of life, all ages, all issues at home, and sometimes people lose their stuff, don't they? And we've got to rein them back.
Just on that particular point, what do you tell your players about the opposition doing it or your guys doing it sledging?
Probably, Brian, probably one of the reasons why I returned back to coaching was that I found the respect for umpires at times was quite poor, and I reckon this is a great comp. And I can remember umpiring a final with Dorgie at Mount Waverley where we had a real moron playing for one of the teams. And to this day, I regret the fact that I did not report him. I think we mentioned him, we spoke to the captain, but in actual fact I should have reported him. We won't cop that. We suspended 2 players last year ourselves. One was a 16-year-old boy, and another guy was a senior player, and we suspended them ourselves for that reason. I think, guys, I'll be honest, Benny's probably going to ask me how I see things going forward or what we'd like to see at home, because I'm conscious of the time. I'll be honest, I'd like to see a few more blokes stood up and said, pull your head in or I will report you. Don't force me to do something you don't want me to do. I think we need to rein a few blokes in. And might be someone from Melbourne. I think we need to do that. I think we've got to give people an opportunity, but I think everyone pretty much knows the rules, and we don't want to be on the back page of the Sun. And I had a very poor thing I can talk about if we have a drink or something to eat later about a few things that happened to me this year in the Southern Footy League, which you'll be astounded. But I think that's one thing. What we just probably moving along really quickly. One thing's that grated us a little bit, guys. All of a sudden, we haven't got umpires coming in giving us the 5 minutes. We're going out in the ground now, fellas. Happy days. Is that still, we're supposed to be doing this?
Absolutely, we should be doing it.
Not everyone's doing it. Are we getting told our over rates? No, we're not.
Not the captain's count.
Like, the captains know that they've got to have 42, 43 at tea.
Oh, we know that. We know that, but it doesn't hurt to remind them.
There's something wrong.
Doesn't hurt to remind them. Had Billy last game, he umpired very well. Is that all right?
That's not what the captain said.
No. I'm just saying, guys, I don't know, I reckon our wide calls are really good in 1 days. Why aren't we doing it in 2 days? You bowl a wide, just call it. I tell you what, it straightens the bowlers up pretty quick. We'd like to see a bit more of that. Don't get me wrong, I think the umpiring's not too bad. What Luke Walker, my captain, the ones that puts on his report, I'm not sure he's got a direct line to Ben.
Yeah, he has.
He has. But we'd like to see a few more wides called. We honestly believe that. We had one umpire didn't call a wide and he got caught out by his mate at afternoon tea because it was the last ball of the day before the last ball before the tea, and it was joked about that he wanted to get inside and get all the good sandwiches before the players knocked him off. But it was a wide. He should have called it. That's probably just a few little things that I've noticed. A couple of things I've noticed this year is umpires not walking on the field or coming off the field together. One little big thing that I was big on in AFL umpiring when I came and umpired for a couple of years was teamwork. I think you're a team out there, your mates, and I think you should go on the ground together, you should lead together. You might hate the bloke's guts. You might never be with him after the game, but at least appear as though you're working as a team. Some guys in this room do it really well. I reckon a few could be a tiny bit better. especially when you've got rain or you've got issues on the field, I don't think it matters if the game slows down and you go and talk to your mate, stop the game, go and have a little chat. You could be talking about anything the players don't know. And the other thing is, I think sometimes less is better. We've noticed some umpires get a bit too chatty, want to get a bit too friendly, and to be honest, players will talk about it in the rooms, and they don't like that. They don't like they just like the umpire there do his job. But we do encourage, and I hope we do encourage umpires to always stay after the game and have a beer or a soft drink or whatever it may be. I think that's really important. And if you had an issue on the day, and I know Johnny's very good at it, and there's others in the room, Murph, that if there's been an issue, you can sort it out by 7 o'clock after the game, can't you? And that just breaks down the barriers going forward for the following week. Any other questions, Brian? Because you know me, I can talk.
No, you can talk all night, so we'll leave it at that, because we're getting the wind up over. It's amazing how I think sometimes people look at my notes, because I've got down here about teamwork and working as a team and talking to the captains, especially wet weather, when there's a bit of a debate or a bit of confusion, controversy if you like, about the wicket. And if that's happening on the day, I would expect umpires to be side by side like twin brothers, so that there's no perception. Umpire over there talking to somebody over there, a player or a captain, another umpire over there, when we've got a delayed start, we don't know what's going on, who knows the conversations. If it's a normal day and things are going on, just having a friendly chat because you know someone, that's fine. But make sure you understand the landscape, what's going on that day, and work really hard as a team. Somebody walking in front of someone else, that's not teamwork. Walk out together. Really look like a team. And we're only going to be as good as we want to be. And if you think, oh, I don't want to do that, well, that's fine, but you'll get found out. You really will get found out, and that's not acceptable in this competition. I wrote an email to Ken Hilton because over the last few games, there are a number of captains that are dictating what time the game's going to finish. The captain comes in at 4:15 and he says to the umpires, listen, I've just been in the opposition room, we've conceded, we're done. Day 2, game's over. Under our rules, we play till 5 o'clock on day 2. Now if it's 10 to 5 and you know there's a change of innings and all them sort of things around that time, that's fine. But we shouldn't be finished at 4:05. The captains don't tell us what to do. We tell them, you're going back out to bat. Whichever team it is, or they're going back out to bowl. And when it gets round about that close to 5 o'clock and they're sick of it and they're bowling the keeper and they want to do some silly things and they sort of want to call it off, fine, you do that. But we've got to adhere to the rules. We are the rules keeper. That's what we do. So let's make sure we do that, please. Really want that to happen. On a real good positive note, I want to congratulate and announce, unfortunately he's not here, his appointment to the Under-21, the Crusaders 3-day game in January, 3rd, 4th and 5th, and that will be young David Stein will be umpiring that game. So give him a clap, he's not here, but that doesn't matter. Really important that, look, it's been a long night, there's a lot that we had, but I didn't want the wet weather one to be gone because we need to talk about it. We start looking at it in January, given the circumstances that Ian had to face. He did a lot of work on it, we had a lot of chats about it, but it's an important element because, let's be honest about it, put your hand up, how many were a little bit confused and not sure about our wet weather? Yeah, there's a lot of us, we're not sure sometimes. So that's why we've got to have those, and it's important. Now time does restrict us at times, and I'm not trying to cut anyone short. That's why I've reiterated, it will go on the website, that PowerPoint, and you've got your book. Please, I spoke to a number of umpires, even on a Friday night, you're sitting home, you've had a bite to eat, you might be thinking, oh, I'll go and watch TV. Spend half an hour just looking through the book about a rule or even a law that you're not sure about. What happens if this happens tomorrow and that law comes up or that rule comes up? Go and read about it. If you know about it, you're really confident you know the rules and the laws, you don't have to look them up. But go and read the ones that you're really sometimes not sure about. Really important. And there's nothing wrong with going out and enjoying your game of cricket. Some of us are very stern, very stark. I mean, just taking a bowler's cap. Thank you, John. Give it back to him. I don't care if they speak to him or not to me. I don't care. I say it all the time. Thanks, John. Well done, John. If he speaks, it's great. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But if we're polite and we give respect, you will get it back. So we are the pioneers, we are the law keepers, and we are the ones right front and centre, which is really important. I'll leave it at that for now. I do want to speak to a couple of umpires. I'll go and tap them on the shoulder a bit later. But with our last game on Saturday, Christmas next week, on behalf of me personally, to all of you and your families, have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and make sure you're safe and sound and enjoy yourselves. Thank you.